All right, everyone. It's 11 o'clock. I'm going to get this started. I'm Tawny Klaus, for anyone that doesn't know yet. I am the SOER coordinator, and this is our last workshop for our fiscal year of 21. I'm really hoping that we break 600. It's been a crazy year. So thank you guys for all attending. Oh, okay, there we go. If you guys need anything throughout the presentation, please feel free to just unmute yourself, turn your camera on, whatever you'd like to do, as long as it's not disruptive. And then ask any questions. This really is just a round table, and we just want to kind of see what everyone's experience or what they have questions with or anything like that. David Guest and Jim Marshall are both here. They're both from our SOAR committee. They do a great job of always helping us out and creating content and things like that. I also will have Brad Ice talk. He's from OCC, and I'll kind of let him tell you guys what he does and how he is and what questions. In our last webinar that we had with, or our last roundtable that we had with the OCC, we really just found out that sometimes it's just as simple as just sending an email, picking up the phone, just having an open conversation to just help clear things up. So I'm excited to start that today. Brad, do you want to tell everyone what you do and how's it going and everything like that?
Yeah, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Brad Ice. I'm the manager of field operations for oil and gas with the Oklahoma Corporation Commission. Before I forget, we've got several of the other district managers. I'd kind of like them here since our 4 districts are really different, you know, from the type of wells, the depths and everything else. I thought it would be good to have them here. So if we have a question in a specific area in one of these districts, I think it would be best for them to answer it. Oil and gas is picking up. We've noticed an uptick in plugins since the COVID and the downturn in the prices. So everything is still here, and I hope this goes well and we can answer your questions.
Awesome. Jim, you want to tell everyone what you do and you want to kind of lead the conversation here today? You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm Jim Marshall. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm the chairman of the education committee for SOAR. Tawny's the brains behind the whole thing. I just kind of say yes when she tells me to do something.
But it's the other way around.
The actual SOAR board, the whole board kind of requested this because plugins are becoming more important.
Trainings.
Beth, you're on.
Keep going.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, but this was kind of requested from the SOAR board, not just the education committee. Different people in different parts of the state have experienced different plugging requirements. When they start plugging a well, they seem to not be exactly sure of what kind of changes are going to be made, that kind of thing. And so it was just kind of requested just to have a roundtable and get the OCC in. I appreciate you guys coming in and just kind of hashing through this so we kind of get an idea of what to expect when we start plugging a well and why we should expect that, I guess.
All right. So does anyone have any questions off the top of their head? Or Brad, would you like to start and just kind of what's some common issues that you guys generally deal with when people are asking about plugging their wells or anything like that?
Okay. One of the big things that we've had and probably here most recently is pipe hasn't been worked a lot for recovery and for resale. So we've had a lot of people that would rather perforate and circulate cement than cut and pull it and pump their in and out. We've had meetings off and on with myself and the 4 district managers to try to bring all 4 districts into a more consistent plugging procedure. So, I mean, we do have certain procedures. All 4 districts are on board that if a company does not want to pull the pipe, we're more than welcome to, perforate, circulate cement to surface. We do have a few stipulations that I'll try to go over just real quick. If you're not going to pull any casing, the one thing we're going to ask you to do is you're going to have to pressure test your casing to make sure it's good after you set your bottom plug. We're going to ask you to perforate a minimum of 50 foot below the base of treatable water or the surface casing, whichever is deeper. And we're going to ask that you either circulate cement to surface so we can verify that we did get everything covered, or if you don't, you're going to have to run a bond log to show that it's at least 50 foot up inside the surface casing. Now, please remember when we're saying this, every well is a little bit different and there's always circumstances that come up. So that is one of the most current things that we have seen. So if anybody has any questions on anything else, we'd be more than happy to take them.
Brad, do you also want to introduce all your district managers? Are they on? They can
they are
themselves and turn their videos on, and they can say what district they're from and things like that.
Okay, Roger Pearman, let's start with you since you're in District 1.
So Roger Pearman, District 1 manager here at Bristow. We have everything from I-35 down to I-40 on the northeastern part of the state.
Galen, you want to go ahead?
Sure. My name is Galen Dar, District Manager for District 3, which covers roughly the southwest quadrant of the state.
I think we have a little bit of mic issue on that one.
Yeah, I know we did. District 2, the district manager for District 2 is on vacation this week, so he won't be here. I am familiar enough with District 2 since that's where I started at. So if anything particular comes up there, Jeff, are you there?
Yes, I am. My name's Jeff Krebs. I'm the district manager in Ada, and District 4 covers the southeastern part of the state.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. Jim, do you have any questions off the top of your head, or does anyone else want to start with some questions?
I have a couple. When you set your, well, any plugs, but basically your bottom plug in casing, do you just spot cement, or do you want a cement retainer set and squeeze cement, or what do you want? Yeah.
I guess I'll go ahead and answer that. If you guys have most of your wells in any of these certain districts, if you'd like to direct that question to that district manager, please just call out their names. On those bottom plugs, if you can either just pump cement, we would ask, an ideal thing is 50 feet to 100 feet above the top perforation that we're plugging off, depending on how many formations are in there. We have some of these smaller zones that, you can pump, you squeeze them off, 50 foot below and get them up to 50 foot above. Or a cast iron bridge plug with 10 foot of cement on top. We kind of leave the plugging systems up to the operators. These are your guys' wells. We don't want to tell you how to plug them. We would rather you guys let us know how you want to plug them and we will approve it. That is really, if you have any questions, every great once in a while we run across somebody that just doesn't know. So we will, give them plug-in instructions at that point. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, so cast iron bridge plug's okay?
Yeah.
And then if we spot cement, do we need to tag it, or if you set a retainer, then you wouldn't have to, or a bridge plug?
No, yeah, if you set a bridge plug, they know it's there. Every bridge plug I've ever seen set, once they set it, the weight will come off of it. They'll run back down there and make sure it's there. And then that dump and bail method, it only takes a baler to 2 balers.
Sure.
And they just dump it on it. The cement can't go anywhere sitting on top of the bridge plug. So we never require that. Now, if it's a cement plug, we will require to plug out or tag that one down at the bottom.
Okay. What about, I'm mostly in District 3, and most of my wells are pretty shallow, but if you got a deeper well, do you have plugs that you want set like 2,500 feet up from the bottom plug and then at the surface casing, or does that whole thing just have to have a mud in it or water, or what do you need in there?
Depends if you have more than one zone open, James. Let's just say you have a 2,500 foot well that if your surface casing covers base treatable water and you are circulated on both sides, all we would require would either be the cement plug across above the top of that perforated zone, and then the mud spacer, and then the top plug, which would be from 33 to 3 foot below ground level. Now, if you had multiple perforations, and it was of the same age series, then we would just set it above the top perf, preferably within 50 foot of that top perf, and same thing. Now, if your cement is top of your cement is below the shoe of the surface casing, and in District 3, what we get a lot of is the surface pipe does not cover base treatable water. So we have to shoot the production casing 50 foot below base treatable water and pump cement there. And what the rules call for is 50 foot below to 50 foot above that base. So you would put up, we like to call it a 100-foot balance plug behind in that annular.
Okay. So that would be squeezed. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think are other people getting a lot of feedback?
Yeah.
Yes.
I could understand him though, Tony.
Okay. It just keeps on coming in and out.
I'm sorry, let me turn a fan off.
James, I think to answer your question a little bit, we don't really require intermediate plugs. I think that's maybe what you're talking about. So if we get our bottom one set, by rule, the well bore either has to be circulated with 9-pound 36 visc minimum or displaced. Okay, either one. You guys had the choice to do it. So I mean, you could displace it, set your bottom plug, then load your hole with the 9-pound mud. We don't, there are a few instances that I can think of off the top of my head where we have a real corrosive zone in very small areas. In District 2, in Major County, the east half of Major County, there is a very, very caustic zone, roughly between 1,000 and 1,500 feet. So there's a small area there that's been there for as long as I can remember, that on those plug jobs, we'll ask them to spot a 100-foot plug above that to keep it from coming up. And I think those instances are rare. I think Roger has a couple of those zones over in District 1. Probably all 4 districts probably have little areas that has those in them. We try to let the pluggers and the operators know, and once they get familiar with those, they kind of come to expect it.
So when you say that corrosive zone, you would want it perforated and cement inside and outside the casing.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And those are few and far between. That is not a standard plugging operation statewide.
Okay. What percentage of the wells, I mean, we got notified of a well, we're getting ready to plug it here at the end of the week, I think, that we didn't even know we had. It was drilled in like 1980 and we left it. Nobody from that era is still here. And Dickie Welsh actually got a call from a new landowner and found it for us. What percentage are wells like that? That you get notified and it's some old lease that you can trace back to the operator and they're still viable?
Okay, so are you asking how many of those old forgotten wells, or just how many in general come from landowners, I guess?
Kind of both.
Kind of both. I would think it's a small percent, and I couldn't give you an exact percent of operators that just forget they've got the wells there. That does happen. We've had it happen before. Most of the time, or when we get a plug or produce complaint, most of those will come from landowners. A percentage of them will come from the commission. We just kind of look at them is we'll look at the production, and if it's been quite a while since they have produced, we'll call and talk to the operator about your intentions. Some of them by rule don't have to be plugged. Some of them we will ask for a well test just to prove that the environmental is safe. And then it kind of goes from there.
Okay, I'm gonna ask another question, if that's all right. If anybody else has questions, jump in. But you had mentioned you set your bottom plug and everything's okay. You know, your perfs are completely covered and everything. And then you want the integrity of the casing tested. That's correct, right?
If you're not going to pull any casing.
Okay, so let's say you have a casing leak.
Yeah.
And it's 1,000 feet below the base of treatable water, or you really don't know where it is. Do we need to go find it and spot a plug across it, or?
It kind of depends. Like I said, that's going to be kind of a well by well basis call, depending on where that leak is at and what's around there. And the reason I say that, what we've had an issue with lately is from disposal wells and injectors.
Yeah.
Is that we've and this is statewide. I just want to make clear, this is not just because of the Blaine County purge. The Blaine County purge kind of brought it to light, is what it's done. So we've kind of got a deal where if there are injector wells or disposals close around, we kind of look and see where that top injection interval is and how far away from the well that you guys are plugging will be. There is a chance that we will ask for a 100-foot plug above that top injection zone, just to keep that water from coming up. And like I said, this is not going to be on every well. It's going to be a well by well basis, but that is something you guys kind of need to keep in mind when you get ready to plug. That is going to be an extra cost. You know, that's another 100 foot of cement and possibly perforations. Okay, so back to your original question. If you find that casing leak at 1,000 feet, what we run into is the reason we're asked to test the casing of casing leak is if you don't know where that casing leak is and you start pumping cement, that casing leak could be high up inside that surface casing. We will not get a cement plug across that bottom. So if it's, let's say that it's down at 1,000 feet and your surface casing's at 300 feet. I don't know, it might depend on the area. Some of you other district managers, you know your areas better. Do you have areas that if you do find a casing leak, are we going to ask them to squeeze it off?
It depends on where the leak is and in what field we are in District 3.
I think mainly, James, what that's going to apply to is if your leak is down low and you figure out where it's at and you can still go ahead and perforate 50 feet below your surface casing. You set a retainer or through a packer, you know, whichever you guys choose. It should go out those first instead of down to that hole. I mean, that's how it works.
Okay, but if it's across a potential water flood zone or something like that, then we need to probably seal it off.
Yeah, I'll probably seal it off. Now there's a chance that also, you know, if you don't want to determine where that leak is at that point, we're probably just going to ask you to cut that casing off, get it out of there and pump it in and out plug.
I'll find the leak probably.
Yeah, so, and that's what we're saying, you know, we're going to kind of leave that guys up to you guys on which way you want to go. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, and if you do cut the casing, you'd still have to cover that zone though, right?
Once again, it kind of depends where it's at.
If it's a water flooding type zone.
Yeah, if it's a water flood zone, you know, on these plug-in rules, you know, we're supposed to isolate so we don't get cross communication. So, I mean, that's just not for our benefit, but that's for the operator's benefits also. So, you know, just kind of keep that in mind. It's not, you know, we're just trying to make you guys use more cement. We're trying to protect the environment by getting it plugged right and, you know, the correlative rights of everybody else around there.
I have a question. Is there an easy way to get a map of where these shallow disposal wells are that are not water injection, that are not water flood zones? I'm talking about water disposals wells that are shallow. Did you hear me?
Fine, shallow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, say 4,000 foot, 5,000 foot, some of these, for instance, there's a well, I know it's about Council in Southwest 29th or so that is a fairly prominent disposal well that has probably caused, 100 casing leaks in that area.
Mhm.
And those go on, those are other places also. I think those are the biggest detriment we have to safely plugging a well. And if we knew where those wells are, when we get ready to plug a well, if it's nearby, we could certainly take that into account.
And I'm sitting here, we do have a system. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't use it. That is on our website. That does have a map that you can zoom into an area and it will have all the wells on there.
Is that through UIC, the UIC link, or?
No, it's through, and you guys are aware our website's changed, and
Right.
I'm still not used to finding stuff on it. While I'm trying to find that, I've got it open on my computer. That's kind of why I'm looking away. This is the one thing that I have problems finding. That wasn't it. Yes, it is. Okay, if you go to if you go to our website and then go to oil and gas, it's under database searches and image documents. Then if you will go down, it's called oil and gas data mining. Then once you get that open, it's under the GIS data mining tab. When that opens it up, I said it's there. I just clicked on it and it's blank. Imagine that. No, it's there. It just takes a while. So there is one there. You'll just have to look at the legend. You can zoom in on certain areas and then you can click on each one of the individual wells.
Okay, great. I'll look at that. Thank you.
Okay. If the map doesn't work, the other thing you could do is you just go to our website and go to image documents and you can type in the section township and range. You can do that same thing on this data mining. And what it'll do is it'll pull up every well in that section. So, I mean, you could pull it up, and I've done this before, just pull it up and then just go through there and look for the type, and it'll either be, injection, commercial, non-commercial. That would be another way to tell you which wells are at least in that section, and you could always click on the sections around. So there are multiple ways to look at that.
Thank you.
Well, Brad, I want to tell you, thank you for having the division managers participate in the call today. I think communication between the operators and all the district offices are very good. There was a question from one of the SOAR committee members that I believe may have been answered already, but the question was, can an operator sign their own plugging report?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. An operator can plug his own well. If he is his own cement equipment, he can sign it for the operator and for the plugger. If he has to hire a cementer to come in and do the cement job, then the cementer will need to sign the 1003. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for answering that question.
You bet. Do any of you other district managers, Jeff, Roger, or Galen, do you guys have anything to add? Anything that you've seen that's a problem that came up with operators hadn't been brought up? I don't want to leave you guys out of this.
Well, I know, Brad, one of the issues that seems to be thrown out all the time is, well, we don't do that in this district, and we don't do that in that district. And like we've said here in one all along, districts are different. And wells are new, and wells are, some are over 100 years old. So some of this stuff, we, like Brad said earlier, it's a well by well, but some of our stuff over here, you start talking 1,000 feet, well, heck, that's deeper than our wells are over here. Some of them, we do have some deeper stuff, but we get northeast, it's really shallow. So we do things a little different. It's just what you're going to see, but we try to get as close as we can together with the other districts, but each well is individual. Each district has different zones they're looking at and trying to keep covered. So there's going to be a little bit of difference. But like Brad said, I like my operators to give me a plug and procedure, and we'll look at it, we'll talk about it, and if we can make it work together, we will. But we're flexible. We're all in this together, and we want to protect the environment together. So we're not trying to be hard. We're trying to look out for what we do and what you do to protect the people of the state of Oklahoma.
I got a question I'll throw out. Obviously, some wells have got coil tubing stuck downhole. What's the rule of thumb? Not trying to hold anybody to a certain dictum here, but what is the rule of thumb for trying to, how hard do you got to try to fish that out, I guess?
We'd like you guys to make an effort. Now, we're not going to ask you to sit out there for days. If you spend, and everyone's going to be a little bit different, Mark, you know that as well as I do. If you make a valid effort, if you spend 3 to 6 hours trying to get it out and you're just not gaining anything, I'd get with your district manager or the field inspector, whoever's out there, and come up with your alternate plugging procedures. We're not going to make you guys stay out there, forever trying to do it.
That's fair.
What happens if you have a discrepancy with your field, the OCC field rep? If you think he's trying to get you to do something that you don't think is either good or that you need to do?
Yeah, it's follow your chain of command. If that field inspector and the plugger yourself doesn't feel like that he's asking you to do what you think is the right thing for rule or maybe the best thing for practice, if you don't agree with them, there's nothing wrong with disagreeing out there. It's just how we work it out. So if you don't do that, then call the district manager and talk to them. They've all been here a while. They've all been in the field. They're all knowledgeable. If for whatever reason that you just don't agree with them, I would be your next step. I would like for you to, call the district manager first. They know these areas way better than I do.
To add to that, Brad, if there's something out there in my district that, hey, even if we're not putting in, if you think we need more or something, speak up. Because again, we're all trying to do a job together, but feel free to call me anytime. And it's not going to get you in trouble for the inspector. It's just that if we're doing something that looks iffy, let's talk about it and try to make it right.
Roger's right. We have a lot of good people working for us in the staff. There's always going to be disagreements out there. Somebody's going to have a bad day. So, just if you guys don't, I don't want this to come off the wrong way. I've had operators tell me before that they just can't get along with that field inspector. There's always going to be a conflict between them. If you don't call that district manager and let them know what's going on, maybe it's just a bad day. Maybe we have a serious problem. Everybody can get that bad egg in there, or it could just be a bad day. But if we don't know about it, then they're out there and we can't do anything about it.
The rules say that if a simple plugging goes haywire, and they do at times, that the district manager can and shall okay an alternate plugging procedure. So I agree with Brad and Roger, and I've got some knowledgeable people out in the field. Usually they will tell them to call the odds, which means me. And, you know, I try to get the operator.
Hey, Galen, I almost can't understand you. You've got a really, really bad echo or vibration or something on your mic. I don't know if it'd do any good, but down there where you mute it, there's a little up arrow button. Click on that and see if you can choose a different microphone. Just see if it makes any difference. Because sometimes it's really bad when you're talking.
Technology, you never know if it's going to work or not.
No, you don't.
Sometimes if you disconnect and then go back in and reconnect and join the meeting again, you'll get a better connection.
Okay, and maybe that's what it is. No. Hey,
Question.
yeah, go ahead.
Are we allowed to still use a cast iron bridge plug to close open formations as long as the perforations are below, of course, and when P&A a well?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, you can as long as there's cement behind the pipe for a bridge plug.
Okay. But we still cannot use a cast iron bridge plug as a top plug, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Now, like I said, there's always an instance. There has been times that we won't use it for a top plug. You can never use it for, well, let me say never. I have allowed that just very, very rarely. What we have had them do is they will go in there and set a bridge plug 50 foot below your surface casing just to hold the cement from going down. We've let them do that. The only time that I've ever known to we've set a bridge plug at the very bottom of the surface casing is we had a very, very strong saltwater flow. And we started, this is going to be roughly off my head. We started down and we found that flow like at 6,000 feet. And we started from that 6,000 feet and we pumped cement in stages all the way up to approximately 1,000 feet. And we had it, we slowed it down, but we never could get it completely stopped. They had drilled it out a couple of times and it just didn't work. At that point, we did allow them to set a cast iron bridge plug at the very base of that surface casing. And then we ended up filling that whole thing up with cement. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying never, but we will not just let you use just a bridge plug for the in and out plug.
Absolutely. Like you've talked about alternative plugging plans. Every wellbore is different configured and they've all had different downhole problems. So yeah, this general rule here, a lot of times it you know, like some of the other people here has asked about if you have a fish left in a hole. So yeah, thanks for that information. Yeah.
Who else has some questions?
I have a question. Is there a minimum requirement for cement specifications used in general plugging? You know, classification, sacks, whatever.
I think it has to meet a 500 PSI is the minimum on the cement.
Is that a 1 hour set period or what's the time frame on?
I'm not sure on the time period at all. They okay, send that 500. Off. You send it off to have it tested, so it would be you know, days on that.
Minimum compression strength is 500 pounds.
Yeah.
Excellent connection.
Yeah, you sound great.
It worked.
If anyone wants to look at it, the cement requirements are on page 223 of the rule book for plugging. Under subsection F.
And then as far as the sacks, we won't tell you how many sacks. the minimum is roughly 50 feet on the surface casing, 50 foot in, 50 foot out. We always would like to, staff usually always recommends 100. If you do the 50 in and 50 out, you have to tag 50 foot up inside the surface casing if you pulled your casing. If you tag that and it tags low, you're just gonna have to pump more cement. So, we'd recommend 100 in or 100 out. Of course, you won't be tagging if you perforate, circulate, don't pull any casing. So staff will usually, if you do the bottom plug and you use cement, we'll ask for at least a 100-foot plug. And we'll let you guys figure out how many sacks 100 foot is.
What kind of time frame do you require operators to plug their wells after they've abandoned completion attempts?
You have, by rule, if it has a string of production pipe, you have 1 year from cessation of production. Now, we have different rules on surface and wells that only have intermediate, or a well that has no casing at all. But a well that has production casing in it, it is 1 year.
Okay.
Have you guys found that, like with COVID, that there's any shortages of supplies or anything like that that's making it harder for producers to be able to plug their well within a year? Or has it been pretty seamless?
When COVID was here, nobody was plugging. Just that the operators weren't, the pluggers didn't have any work. And we were not, short of an emergency pollution problem, at that point, we were not requiring anyone to plug a well.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, we actually had an order from the commissioners that expired on its own terms, but at that point, we were not forcing anyone. That the 1 year rule did not apply. Your lease. The one thing you guys kind of need to remember when the commission talks about leases, we're talking about the wells, where they're at. But then there's also the lease agreement that you have with those mineral owners. Those are two separate things, and the commission does not get into the leases with those mineral owners. That's a private thing between the landowner and you guys. So like I said earlier, we've seen a pickup. Operators are starting to plug wells. Talking to the pluggers, they are getting busier. A lot of times, we've discussed this time and last time. One of the most important and the best thing an operator can do is stay in touch with the districts and with that field inspector. If you do have a complaint on one of your wells and it's a plugger produced complaint, if you will just let that field inspector or that district manager know that, hey, I've got a plugger lined up, but I can't get it done by the due date. I will almost guarantee you probably 99% of the time, we know most of those pluggers out there, that field inspector will call that plugger. Not saying that you guys are liars, so don't get me wrong on that, but we'll ask that plugger, are you set up to plug this well? And they will say yes. We'll say how many wells you got in front of it and when can you get to it? And then what we'll do, like 99% of the time, we will extend that time out. So it's really important to keep that communication open from both sides. I've asked our district managers to tell the field staff that we want our guys to call you guys. We don't want you to get a complaint just in the mail. We would rather talk to you guys, let you know it's coming. I know the complaints and the plugins, that's not what we're here for, but they do tie together a lot. So even like David said earlier, the communication works both ways, and we need it from both sides, from the staff and from industry.
I know something that SOER had started right before COVID was just doing luncheons with you guys. And, I think that's a great way, and we can even amp it up to be like we can have a round table and we can have lunch after or something like that. So probably this fall, next spring is when we'll start doing those. So district managers, I'll be reaching out to see what days are good for you guys, probably come November-ish. But that way SOAR can help you guys also bridge that gap. Because I know sometimes you guys are like, oh, I don't want to plan anything else. I don't want to do anything like that. So any way that we can help the producers and you guys, get together and open that communication is great.
Tawny, I have a question. I realize this is a plugging roundtable, but I'd like to ask the 3 district managers if they have any problems or communications that we need to take back from them out to the operators and to our field personnel. If Roger or Jeff or Galen or even Brad have any comments that we need to pass along to our field people.
Yeah, is there anything that you guys think like, oh my gosh, it'd be great if we could get this message out to people? Like, we even have like forms and state forms. We have like a whole OCC series, but what do you guys get the most questions on or the most complaints about, or something that just really needs to be communicated or taught? We might have stumped them.
For me, I get a lot of inquiries about different forms that needs to be filled out, and I'll try my best to help anyone that'll come by. Some forms is not something I'm real familiar with, but I'll help anybody that needs help. So just call.
And I bet it's even hard for you guys just because you guys are all in your districts, and then these forms probably come up here to the city and they may want something that you guys don't always, know about or something like that. So yeah, we can, if there's forms that you can think off the top of your head that you're getting more and more frequently, feel free to email me or tell me whatever number it is, and I'll get with someone up there and have a class on it or have a quick tutorial or anything like that.
A lot like Jeff on that. I've been telling, especially we've had a lot of things like UIC issues with Patricia and the operators. And so it's more work on me, but I just tell the operators, come to my office. We'll get it to her. We'll make sure it's right. Because there seem a lot of, over here, I have a lot of small mom and pops. Some of them don't even have a computer. So I just want to try to make it a little easier, because in the end, it's going to come back to me to go out and have to shut these guys down, or she can't get a hold of them. And usually it's a simple phone call, but I just tell them, come to the office. We'll get her done. I want to keep them in compliance the best we can and try to help them the best we can, because, we want them producing over here. So we're willing to help any way we can.
I think our biggest problem down in District 3 has been communication, with Jim Thorpe being shut down, those people at home, and anything to do with money we don't handle here at the district office as of now, has probably been as hard to deal with as any of the forms.
Right. It's such a strange time just because you guys already have so many processes that you have to do because you're, a state agency. But then on top of that, with COVID and all the different work situations. So yes, and I'm sure everyone's like, but wait, we're ready. We're ready to be back. And it's just different strokes for different folks. So I get where you guys are probably running into that too. For you guys that are not the OCC district managers or anything like that, what issues do you guys run in with the most? Like, do you guys have certain forms or anything like that you guys are always like, oh my gosh, this is such a headache. Like, I just wish I had a tutorial on or something like that? Most of you probably attend our classes, so maybe you don't have those issues.
Oklahoma's pretty user friendly. And, from the field inspectors to you guys that are on here now, even the forms are fairly straightforward. And as your webpage gets better and better, that helps too. Being able to track down other wells and things like that. So I think you guys do a great job. And I certainly appreciate your efforts to make it as easy on us as you can, while still getting the job done. So I really don't have problems with Oklahoma forms. Now, I don't fill out all of them, but they're pretty straightforward and they're pretty easy to deal with, I think. But I have a non-related question for Galen real quick. How'd you let Dickie go? I mean, how'd you let him retire? He needs to stay a few more years.
Well, it was kind of a surprise to me. Brad called me and said, did you know Dickie retired today? And we had been in a manager's meeting, and I said, no, I wasn't aware of it. I think it kind of surprised all of us. But a lot of people didn't realize Dickie's 67 years old. He could have gone, he had his points and all that. He could have gone at any time.
Well, he lost a good one there.
But man, I'm already jealous of that retirement.
There you go.
Does anyone else have any more questions that you'd like to get answered?
I have a question about orphan wells. If an operator takes over an orphan well, how long would that operator have to plug it?
Well, here we go again. If you don't.
I'm sorry. I can't hear you.
Your microphone went back to how it was at the beginning.
It's acting up again.
If you release on that,
Brad, you want to take this one over?
Brad,
Yeah, I'll do it. It's going to be just like any well. If you take a well off the orphan well list, we're going to give you time to figure out what you want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, what seems to happen, and I don't know how they find out so fast, but a lot of times what we get is landowner complaints. It seems like the second someone either takes over a large number of wells or they start acquiring wells off that orphan well list, it seems like for some reason we get landowner complaints. By statute, we have to respond to all landowner complaints, but the field inspector should look at that. I mean, we can look at the 1073, see when you've taken it over, but that's also where it comes back into talking. So when that field inspector calls you, say, hey, I've got a complaint on this well, help them out. So we just acquired this well, this is what we plan on doing it. Agree, we still have to give you a time frame to bring it in compliance. Okay, so if nothing happens, within a year after you get it, we'd like to see it producing. We would rather have these wells producing than plugged. That's more revenue for the state.
Right.
I mean, it really is. It's more money in the operator's pockets. That's what we would like. No matter how small the production is, it all counts.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, it would depend. There's always a what if, is it a environmental problem? The more that we know about the well, and a lot of these, you're not going to know about these wells on these orphan well lists until you get into them.
Right.
So I would like to say, the staff will work with you guys as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys talk to them and if the operator is just not doing anything at all, there comes a point where we just have to, we have to draw the line. Mm-hmm. We would rather that you guys come into compliance. We're not here to fine you or to run you out of business. We do not want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So we would rather work with you guys and get them into compliance and move on to something else.
Okay. But in general, 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Go for it.
I just got a notice that I've got a well that's coming up or it's due for an MIT test, and it's a disposal or injection well. We're looking to change that well to a producing well. What kind of hoops do I have to jump through to make that transition? Because if it doesn't produce, we're probably going to turn around and plug it.
What district are you in?
Sorry?
What district are you in?
It's Northwest Carter County.
Yeah, you're District 3, Phil.
Yeah, your microphone is still bad. Phil, I'll answer your question real quick. You can terminate your UIC order or your permit. I think it's a form 1072. That's off the top of my head. I may be wrong on that. But I think it is. You can file that 1072 with the UIC department. Once you do that, your well is no longer an injection or a disposal. Okay, so what that does is when that's terminated, the UIC will send the district that this well's been terminated. And at that point, we'll probably get with you and, we'll ask you what you're going to do with it. And if you're going to bring it back into production, it's kind of like we talked, I think it was with Brooke earlier, we'll work with you. And if you're going to produce it, if you can show us that casing has integrity, either, by MIT in that casing, what that really does is it more or less that'll buy you a year. So, within a year, you can do that. You always do have the option of TAing that well, by our rules. You can TA it for a year with the fluid level or 5 years with an MIT.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else have any more questions before we wrap this up?
Well, I just want to say thank you to all the Corporation Commission staff for their time this morning and answering everybody's questions. We appreciate their time.
Yes, thank you guys.
I agree. Thanks for that, and everybody else for participating in the questions.
Yeah, thanks a bunch.
Good stuff as always. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Just remember, if you guys think of anything else, just call your district manager and talk to them.
Yes.
They'll take your calls.
And then in the spring, look for those get-togethers, and we'll all have some lunch together and just hang out and face-to-face and shake hands and just be happy together.
Connie, you better do a plug for the expo real quick.
Yes. So October 14th, we have the Oklahoma Oil and Gas Expo. This is where we usually have about 3,600 to 4,000, depending on the year, attend, and it's all industry. We've got in the past, we've had over 300 booths, and it's anything you can think of. Our main goal is to kind of get everyone in touch with the latest technology, or just really bring together everyone in one space once a year to just make that connection and have that moment for everyone to be together. So it's up at the Bennett Event Center, which is at the Oklahoma City Fairgrounds. It's from, I think, 9 to 3. Don't quote me on exact hours, but that should be it. And it's free barbecue. So you guys are basically getting the best barbecue around. It's head country. And it's free. Go back for seconds, do whatever you would like. And then just kind of go around and say hi and see what's going on and stop by. And if you can find one of the SOER girls or the SOER committee members or anything like that, we'll all be kind of like chickens running with our heads cut off, but say hi and say, hey, I love this, love that, things like that. I'll be sending you guys a survey later today about this, and do the same thing. Just say like, hey, loved this, wish this would have been addressed, would love a webinar on this or that or anything like that. So yeah. And then we do have SPCC and state and federal air regulations coming up. Their air regulations did have to get moved up because of our teacher's schedule. So air regs is going to be on July 7th, and SPCC is going to be on July 8th. So it's a Wednesday and Thursday. And then you guys, I'm sure you guys found this out through our e-blast. So you'll be seeing that next week too.
Did you say those dates one more time?
Yes. So state and federal air regulations will be July 7th. And that one starts a little bit early. So it starts at 10:30 and goes till about noonish. And then on July 8th, we'll have another one at 11 a.m. and that will be SPCC. So, and that's with our normal training with Laura. She's great. She's great at answering everyone's questions and getting everyone taken care of. And
Is the SPCC a full day or half day? What is that?
it's just a 1 hour. Yeah.
Okay. What time was that?
11 a.m.
11 a.m. Okay, good.
Yeah. And Mark, if you get our e-blast, you'll see it. We have one coming out next Tuesday that's solely about those. And if you're interested in the Petro Ed classes too, we only have, I think it might be 11 spots left. And you have from now till October 1st to take all of those courses, and you get PD credits for that too. So.
Excellent. Thank you.
Are these going to be Zoom meetings?
Those are, yeah. We will start back in person probably late fall, and then we'll try to do a hybrid just because we've been able to reach so many people in one webinar. So today was actually our last count for the fiscal year, and the highest that SOAR has ever had is, I want to say it was like 300 one year. And today we hit 602 people in attendance. So, which is great. I mean, it's crazy that sometimes technology can be a pain, but it can also be a blessing. So, yeah. All right. If there's no more questions, I'm going to say thank you to OCC, our SOAR committee members, all of our participants, and hopefully I see you guys in the next couple of weeks.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah,
for putting
thank
it
you.
together.
Thank
Thank you all for the good information.
Oh, no problem. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.